In this video, we're going to discuss burials and markers in the CemTrax program. Please keep in mind that these videos are meant to be an overview of the CemTrax program and are not an in-depth tutorial on how to use it. Detailed instructions on how to use the CemTrax program are found in the manual, which is in the Help section of the program. Let's begin by doing a burial of a husband and wife in two separate spaces. When I double-click on the map, I will go directly to this space. Now we can see the space information for it. I'll navigate to the burials section. And what I'd like to do for space number 1 is place a new burial. First, we select the name to be interred. Here we're going to bury Timothy Jackson. So I start typing Jackson and then find Timothy. The burial type is a regular burial, a ground burial. Now you may add different burials to this drop-down menu. So besides burial and cremains, you may add whichever you wish. We have several fields in which we can enter burial information. We have the burial location, who authorized it, the burial cost, which I will just put in an amount of $500 for our example. And we also have the other amount and the other fees. These fields can be relabeled, so if you have specific amounts and fees that you'd like to place into CemTrax, you can change those amounts in your preferences in the settings section. We can also place a burial date, the funeral home, and the relationship to space owner to point out exactly what this means. So Timothy Jackson is the owner of this space. For the relationship to space owner, we would put self. You can also choose many other relationships, of course. Here we have husband and wife available. You can modify this list to include any relationship you choose. Or you may choose not to use this field at all, but the choice is yours. We also have the notes section, which may contain many paragraphs of data that you wish to put in. And as with many areas, we have up to 5 custom fields that you can place into the program. Again, these fields can be relabeled so they do not say custom 1, 2, and so on. These will be changed in the settings section of CemTrax. So once you have all your information filled out, you would save it. And then if you've noticed, Timothy's name shows up in the burials for this space. Now we can also add multiple burials to the same space, and we will go through an example of that shortly. Now I'd like to do another burial for Timothy's wife, which is next to him in space number 2. Click on New. And if we remember, her name is Beatrice. Her burial type is also a traditional ground burial. And her burial cost will be $450. And again, you can put in whatever other information you choose. And then when you're finished, you click Save. And as with Timothy's space, we can see her name as a burial for this space. If we go back to our map, we can see that these two spaces down below are now a darker blue to indicate the sold with burial status. I'm going to go to this space in the upper left corner, which is currently sold. I'll double click on it to go to the space information. That brings up the space information. Again, I'll go over to the burials. And in this space, we're going to bury 2 cremains in the same space. So first, I'm going to click on New. And for the interred, I'm going to choose James Fox. The burial type for this one is cremains. And then I will save this information. Something to keep in mind, anytime you add a burial to CemTrax, that person is automatically marked as deceased, and they are also automatically entered as a permission to be buried in that space. Now I'm going to add a second burial to this same space. So I click on New one more time. And then for the interred, we will choose Martha Fox. This is also a cremains. And when we save it, we now see that James' name and Martha's name is up here in the burials box. So if we click between the two, we see Martha's name. Click on James. We see James' name down below. So I can go in and edit James' information. Let's put in his burial cost of $375. And we'll save that. And then if I click on Martha, I see there is no burial cost. But if I click on James, I can see there is a burial cost. So that is how you distinguish between two different burials on the same space. There is no limit in CemTrax as to how many burials can be placed within the same space. Next we'll move on to markers. You may also refer to markers in your cemetery as gravestones or headstones or some other type of language. Markers are unique in that there can be a marker for more than one space, and also a space may have more than one marker. Let's go to our map. And what we're going to do is place a marker that is assigned to both of these spaces. So if I go to the first space, and again go to the markers section, I can add a new marker. I'll choose a marker type. Marker types can vary greatly between cemeteries, so your list may look much different than the sample one I've provided, but please remember you can add any names you choose. For this example, we're going to choose a double marker type. You can also choose a vendor or manufacturer, and you can enter these names in the settings of CemTrax. Now often the vendor and the manufacturer is the same, but you are able to record them if they're different. And then there are many other fields of information. We will just enter a cost for the marker of $700. You have other amount and other fees. Again, the labels for these fields can be customized if you choose to call them something else. And as with many other areas, you have up to 5 custom fields that you can relabel and use as you see fit. So once I save this marker, you can see down below that it is now associated with this space in the west section, block number 3, row 2, space number 1. Now let's go and edit this marker. And what we will do is choose the space next to it, space number 2 of that row, and we'll add that. And then when we've saved it, we can see that this marker applies to both spaces 1 and 2 in this second row of block 3 in the west section. You may also choose to set up permissions with markers. This will tell you whose name is on the marker. So for a husband and wife, you would have both of their names on there and they would both be listed as an associated permission. You may also choose to add another marker to this space. So sometimes a space may have a marker for the husband and the wife, and perhaps there is a second marker for a newborn child that was also buried in the same space. Let's edit this marker one more time and add an image. And I will navigate to where I have this document saved on my computer. And now we have this marker saved. If we have, let's say, an image of the front of the marker and the back of the marker, we could add a second image. So I realize these are not images of the same marker, but if we attach another image, we'll save this now. So you can see how if you had an image of the front of the marker and the back of the marker, you could see that all within CemTrax. There is no limit to how many pictures you can attach to a marker. In our next video, we will discuss deeds, ownership history, and attaching documents.